today's panel discussion. And the topic of this discussion is protecting your company and your customers from cyber attacks. Now, let me introduce the moderator and all the panelists for this panel discussion. Mr. Sanjay Kumar Das, Joint Secretary and State Information and Security Officer, Government of West Bengal. He will be moderating the discussion. Now to the other panelists, Mr. Rakshit Tandon, Consultant IAMAI, Advisor Cyber Compliant Redressal Cell UP Police Agra. Welcome, sir. Mr. B.M. Zaidul Haq, Head of Information Security, Rak Bank Limited, Bangladesh. Welcome you, sir.
Hello.
Mr. Ritesh Bhatia, Director, V for Web Cybersecurity, and he's also cybercrime investigator. Welcome, Ritesh, sir. And last but not the least, Mr. Mrinal Chakraborty, Executive VP IT and Innovations, DTDC Express Limited. Welcome you, sir. Now I request Sanjay, sir, to please proceed with your team, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. It has been wonderful listening to Mr. Sahai. Though we are running a little bit late, so I think the leverage of 15 minutes that we started with in our internal discussion, we have to do away with that, because I'm told that Mr. Tandon would be leaving soon because he has a prior engagement. So before we actually take off, I would just like to tell you a very simple thing. That while Mr. Sahai left us, and the topic that Madam in her initial, setting up the context, told that the topic of our discussion was something that I have not come across. The topic that we have received is data protection and privacy trends in the new normal times. So based on that, we are going to actually, take off. And I would like to start by telling you that, we use all sorts of wallets and other online activities. Whenever we do such, there are transactions which are called failed transactions. And we are told by the either recipient banks or the recipient organizations to wait for 24 hours or 8 hours or 72 hours within which the failed transactional amount will come back to us. And often it happens. But if it does not happen, in many cases, it does not happen. And we have to actually, go from pillar to post. That means that very organization, technologically, we have to reach up to them, sending them email, finding out ombudsman, whosoever is there, whether that person can be reached. Most of the times we do not receive replies to emails. Then we need to find out that, yes, this organization is actually right now into Facebook. So we have to get to them. Or in Twitter, if you don't have, this digital domain footprints of maximum level, we need to do that, because if in Twitter, in Facebook, in Instagram, all these places, we need to, bombard them with our problems and then find out that, yes, my problem is answered. If it is not answered, then for commercial organizations, the right to information does not happen. It only happens with the public authority. So commercial organizations are not, this thing, a public authority. So failed transaction does not, pertain to the cyber, this appellate authority. So we cannot approach them too. I don't know what happens, but in many cases, I have found that people actually receive great amount of mail. So what I understood as an administrator of 27 years, seeing the manual version or the physical version of you know administration to the present hybrid version of administration, and going into in 10 years when I'll be retiring, the completely digital version of administration, I have understood that every transaction, at least a value or a log or a something, every transaction needs to be enumerated in a government this thing repository, so that one can go there and verify and get support, being a common man, that yes, that transaction did actually take place. And in most of the cases, that is the commercial cases, it does not happen. We do not know physically where the data of Paytm stays. We do not know where are their DR, and we are not scheduled to know even. Same with the case of everybody. The platform right now we are using, even this platform, when people, in the US and in the European Union, they use this platform, Zoom, and they talked about the atrocities being faced by the Uyghur people. Suddenly, they found that their entire Zoom accounts have been closed and they have been forbidden to use Zoom accounts. When the owner of the Zoom was asked, Mr. Eric Wan, he told that we need to be, apolitical, and we need not actually propagate discontent. So whatever we are speaking right now, my dear Sushobhan and every one of my colleagues, peers, and whosoever is listening, each one of these, audio details is being looked into, and they are being searched into by using the keywords. And as I have just used the word Uyghur, my digital, profile has been ticked at many of the servers at different places across this world. With this opening remarks, I would request, with all humility, Mr. Ritesh Bhatia, the director of V4 Web's cybersecurity, cybercrime investigator, to talk about the basic necessity of privacy by design. We have understood that prevention is better than cure, and if an application is designed with privacy in mind, there is little, possibility of listening the vulnerability, you can say opulence, or the vulnerability environment around the application in the days to come. So, Mr. Bhatia, I would request you to speak on this if you may. Thank you. Sir, you are muted. Sir, you are muted. Would you please?
Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Sushobhan and Sukanya madam, for giving me this opportunity. Always an honor to be with such co-panelists and such speakers. It was definitely, it was a great data privacy day was well, it was an amazing learning session, listening to different perspectives. And so I'm going to be talking about the thing that we need to, we all have been talking about privacy, we've been blaming governments, we've been blaming companies, but we are going to talk about now the ones where the privacy leaks. So these are the companies, and that's the reason, whenever we talk about security, we say, okay, security has to be inbuilt. The same way, in the last 10 years, we've been doing so much about security. This era, this 2020s era, decade is going to be all about privacy. And the way we have security embedded into a design, we have to talk about privacy by design. Under privacy, so what is privacy by by design. It is nothing but a framework. It is like when you're building any technology, let's say it could be an app, it could be a simple Google form also. It could be a poll that you're conducting wherein you're taking certain particular information. The first thing that comes to your mind should be privacy. Do I need so much of information? If at all I need so much of information, can I apply some PET, which is called as privacy enhancing technologies? For example, pseudomization. Like, do I really need to know that on Zoom, the speaker who's there in front of me is Mr. Mrinal Chakravarti? Can I allow, can I by default give him a name of attendee one? So things like these, so we are talking, so this is embedding privacy at the development stage itself, so that privacy doesn't become an add-on at a later point of time. We build an app, we build a website, we build a lot of applications, and then we say, oh my God, we have so much of data. So what if the data minimization had happened at the first stage itself? So this is all about, like, in a very, very simple terms, what is privacy by design? Like, for example, you want to have people coming for this particular session. Do we really need to know their gender, for example? Do we really need to know their age? Or when I'm installing let's say Zomato, what does it need? Initially it needs only and only my mobile number or my email, because I want to sign up. I have not yet started using the services. So do I need to give all these kind of things to the particular person, to that organization? No. Because what if I just install the app, have a look at it, and I say, no, this is of no good to me, and I uninstall it? Why have I given so much of data? And hence, when the data protection law comes, these people will also be held responsible if there is a breach, even if I'm not a customer. And hence, incorporating privacy by design is an important element. Now, within privacy by design, there is something called as privacy by default. Like, for example, if I have to come onto the Zoom session, by default, my video should be off, because, I am clicking on the link, I'm trying to adjust. Maybe at that point of time, I'm, wearing my jacket. Some other person is, trying to do something else, and which they don't want it to be revealed, So it's not a great idea that your video is on by default. So the video has to be off by default. Maybe at that point of time also, like, there is a dog in my room and I'm telling, hey, listen, Tommy, just go away and all. I don't want you to hear about it. So by default, my audio also should be off. It shouldn't be that, these are all on and then you give me the controls. No, you're giving me the controls. But what you need to do is, your responsibility is to keep it off and give me the controls, whether I want it to be on at a later point of time or not. Not taking much time, I will just tell you few things about privacy by design. I mean, when did the concept come up? The concept came up in 1990s. Imagine at that point of time, it originated in Canada, and there is a framework built. It's a very, very simple framework based on 7 principles. If every developer follows those principles, even if you're creating a Google form or a complex product like a social media, I think it will be very easy. One of the principle is that the privacy needs to be proactive, not reactive. You don't do it at a later point of time, It needs to be preventative before the data gets leaked out, So you have to prevent it at that point of time, and it should not be remedial. Oh my God, I'm sorry, all the data leaked out, I apologize and all. No, but had you pseudonymized the data, what would have happened? Don't worry. Your name of Sushovan Mukherjee is also not out over there, because they have given it a pseudonym. Instead of Sushovan Mukherjee, they have called it as Anglis Andrade. You never know. So this is what is the first principle. The second principle is that the setting has to be by default of privacy. I just gave you the example of Zoom. The user doesn't have to take any action to secure their privacy. It is by default that, okay, in Zoom, your video and audio is off. Okay. The consent for data sharing is not assumed, that, okay, like if you're using my product, you have the consent. No, you need to seek that consent. And the privacy has to be embedded into the design. You cannot just say it's an add-on. Again, the private, you cannot say private, okay, because of so much privacy, security will be at a risk. Okay, we reduce the privacy, increase the security, and vice versa. No, it's privacy, it has to be a balance between privacy and security. So, and the last thing would be like, the data that is collected right from the day one till its retention or destruction, it has to be, the end-to-end life cycle, the data has to be protected. And hence, the lesser the data you have, the lesser the headache you have of protecting it. If you know the user has left your platform, you no longer need the data, it's better that you destroy it. So these are, out of the 7, I've spoken on these 5 main principles. So overall, this is all about privacy by design and privacy by default. Over to you, Sanjay sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bhatia. Actually, I try to follow what you have been just preaching us, putting off audio and video and immediately increasing your security, because this is called, cyber hygiene. So if we try to follow cyber hygiene, our lives will be better. Sir, I would like to just add to what you, pseudonymized data. I would like to add to this. If we can actually free our application from personally identifiable information, I would like all of you to go and see one of the applications that we launched from the Department of Information Technology during the pandemic, that is called Karmabhumi, karmabhumi.nltr.org. If you just see, it is a state repository of skilled IT/ITES resource. So you will have every IT/ITES resource of 30, different skills and 800 sub-skills and tools. KARMOBHUMI, karmabhumi.nltr.org. If you just see, and you will find that. The beauty of this application is the 45,000 plus applicants registering here are not required to give their name and any details. It is only checking them by their mobile number, because they are saying what they are, and people who want to hire them will find out whether they are true to their deliberations. So in that manner, the huge database that we have, I often say that this is hackable. Please go and hack, because even if you hack it, you cannot reach either up to Sushobhan or to Sanjay or to Mr. Bhatia, because we do not keep either the name of Sushobhan, Sanjay or Mr. Bhatia. So from pseudonymization to completely anonymization is what we can think of. So with that, I would request, our next speaker, Mr. Haq, Mr. B.M. Zaid ul Haq, Head of Information Security, BRAC Bank Limited, Bangladesh. Mr. Haq, I would request you to talk about the rights of a banking customer. What is yours as far as data is concerned from the point of view of a banker, the banking organization? What is yours and what is not? Thank you. The floor is yours, Mr. Haq.
Thank you, sir. Actually, data is most important. Like for a bank, when a bank is going to make a relationship with any customer, bank has the right to know about the customer from compliance perspective and from business perspective, or when bank is planning to provide any support or service, or during their any product planning perspective, bank has the right to know about the customer. So so from that perspective, bank take multiple informations from the customers, but from customer perspective, customer has right to get the assurance that this data will not be misused in anyhow. Data protection must be ensured. Like when a customer is giving his data in a hard copy form or through web or through mobile app, in all ways that need to be protected enough so that data is not misused. And definitely customer has the right to get the assurance that this data will not be used or share with any third party without customer consent. So this is one of the side that customer has the right to have their thing. At the same time, customer has the right to say no or get to know, like GDPR has come, though it's not applicable here in all the areas. It's not forced yet, but it's still like they have the right to know or say no to any data. They may ask any time that data should not be shared with anybody without their consent. That data must be secure enough. When the data is being stored in the server of the bank, that must be secure enough. At the same time, when an application being developed by a bank for the customer has the right to know what are the data been shared or need to provide with the bank. And here, as a customer, must ensure that only the required data should be shared while any application is been developed. So as a bank, should not ask for any additional data that is not really needed. And from bank perspective, that data must be classified, like as one of our previous speakers said, that classification must be ensured, like which are sensitive data or which are private data. That classification must be there. So so those must be handled accordingly. Just recently, a number of people, they are working from home. So here, data privacy has become a prime concern, definitely. So from bank side, bank need to ensure that data privacy has been ensured properly. And from customer perspective, definitely they have the right to get that assurance from the bank. And though in everywhere, from most of the organization, they consider data privacy from a compliance perspective, but currently it's no more just a compliance issue. It's more than that. It's more than security issue. It's more than compliance issue. It's the integrated thing, privacy at this moment, because so many banks they're bringing open applications. So while we are talking about open application, so many data need to be shared with multiple parties, like 3 banks, 4 banks. They're sharing among in different countries. So like in Australia, they have started this thing. So from a customer perspective, that assurance is mandatory, that without their consent, no data has been shared or will be shared with any party. And from bank perspective, as a customer, bank always expect customer also must be careful enough about their rights and responsibility in terms of privacy. Like when they're allowing any application, that application need to be checked before they're installing in their mobile or in their devices, so that application is from an accurate source. And while they are allowing any application, they must know what they're actually allowing. They're allowing the location or something. What is, if this really needed, customer has the right to ask this question, definitely. And as a customer, from bank perspective, they have the right to get aware, like as a bank must take or may take multiple initiative to aware their customers, to know about what is their responsibility and everything. So this is how actually the responsibility right been shared among customer and the bank. So this is how it works. Bank, or as a customer, bank can expect, or bank has the right, that bank will take multiple initiative in terms of process, people, technology, so that their data is secure to the bank. Because customer data is most valuable for the bank. This is more than just a data. It's an asset for the bank. At the same time, it's critical for the customer as well. So I think this is how this right is actually shared among customer and the bank. Mr. Sanjay.
Thank you, Mr. Hawk. Thank you. It was really nice. I would like to, come back to you if time permits with regards to some use cases, because that will definitely enable people to understand as to how, banking organization, resorts to, appeals of their customers and all. I would request you to just ponder over that during the intervening period. Let us go ahead to Mr. Tandon. Mr. Rakshit Tandon, consultant IAMAI, Internet Mobile Association of India, and advisor to Cyber Complaint Redressal Cell of UP Police Agra. It is really an honor, sir, to have you with us. I would request you, if possible, please give us an insight into the breaches and impacts to cyber crimes, because you have a great, exposure to such. So,
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank you,
Tandon,
sir. Thank you
would
so
you
much.
please? Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay sir. Thank you. It was a pleasure listening to all eminent speakers. Namaskar, all of you. And coming straight to the point, a concern is that the breaches which we are seeing, it started impacting individual lives now. We are talking about privacy by design. We are talking about privacy as a fundamental, but even Supreme Court says that privacy is a fundamental right. But the situation, something is that if I am browsing on my mobile application, and that is, I'm talking about a banking application, I'm just browsing a product. I just searched for a product on my banking application, and the moment I do that, immediately after that, I start getting calls. My bank loan with A bank, for example, A bank, I have taken a loan. That loan details with the important private details are shared with other banks. So they are also calling me for a top up or for an update or something like that. So this, and there are two ecosystems which I think two frameworks which are very important in the cyber ecosystem. One is banking and the other is mobile companies. And recently in July, I was working with the Uttar Pradesh police, and we got around 15 to 20 complaints in a row, where the callers got a call from a mobile company claiming to have all their personal information, to the extent that the caller even said that these are the 3 recharges you have done. And that all those information made the caller believe that it is a true call. And what happened with them was their SIM cards were hijacked. It was an eSIM fraud, where the eSIM, embedded SIM, was activated on the basis of the personal details, and by changing the email ID to the mobile company, and then finally banks were hacked. So there were around 14 to 15 such complaints. One lady, she did online shopping on a very trusted mobile app, a very trusted brand, at 11 o'clock. And 11:15, she received the call somewhere from South saying that you are so-and-so, bole yes. You have purchased so-and-so product, bole yes. This is the color, this is the code, bole yes. This is the amount you paid, bole yes. Congratulations, you are a lucky winner of Mahindra Scorpio car. And by giving all these personal inputs, the lady was forced to believe that yes, actually she is the lucky winner of that car, and some amount was duped in the name of insurance and in the name of registration. So the concern here is about the data breaches which are happening. We just pick up a newspaper every day and we read a figure, such million data being hacked available on dark web. So the law, as per the company's framework, when I am a company, I'm a e-commerce company, and I am collecting information from my customer, it becomes my responsibility to take care of his data. And there is some flaws, there are some you can say vulnerabilities in their programming or their coding or their database structure, that these breaches happen. And once they happen, again, they are being sold openly. You can, even on the open surface web, you can find databases. During this lockdown, there was not a single day where I was not listening to complaints that I have received the email which is mentioning my password and claiming that I have put a bug in your computer and recorded some of your personal stuff. So either you pay me in Bitcoin or I will leak that personal stuff. The concern was that the person knew the real password. How? Because of some data breaches happening, and the data is available either on the surface or the dark web. So now the effect of data breaches have started coming on the crime, and that level of crime is increasing. Data has been sold. I personally keep on getting some spams and mails where people are claiming that they can sell me a database of an online conference which took place right now with 2,000 attendees, their email address, their phone numbers, and their personal details. And such emails you can see coming openly by the databases, so-called databases companies. So this is a key concern now. And we are talking about monetization of privacy, algorithms, that is all said and done. But what will we stop today? How can I stop? That day I was just discussing, very friendly, I was discussing with a friend about picking up a bike. I know at this age it is a little joke to buy a bike, but I just thought of buying a bullet bike. But let me tell you, all the respected audience, that since that day, whatever social media I open or whatever news application I open, I see that motorcycle ad coming up. I have not searched it on Google. I have not made any cookie for myself. Yes, though I was speaking about it. So when I download an application and I say give access to my microphone, I don't know what AI algorithm is working in the background. And just to end on a funny note, that day my wife was getting angry with me for something and we had a small tough fight, and I got an email suddenly after some time, do you need a counselor? So this is where I think the privacy is going to end. And but yes, now the key concern is for the law enforcement agencies with the kind of breaches we are seeing and the cases we are seeing. If we can have strict rules and regulations for at least two people in the framework, one is the mobile companies and their vendors and what you call their POS, point of sales, where you can buy and sell SIM cards. And second is this bank and their ancillary services like loans and home loans, because I know they have a lot of pressure to put on target. So this data has been totally misused. And especially the third sector, which I forgot to mention, again, a very hot sector for crime is insurance sector, where the caller can also, he also knows the last premium I paid, by which check number I paid and which bank I paid. And then if he is offering me a bonus or something, he dupes the person. So a lot of insurance fraud. So I think this is the effect. And there are some open source tools which can easily tell you whether your email is breached or not and where it is breached. So there's an open source tool called haveibeenpawned.com. If you just open this website and put in your email ID, you will come to know that how many times you have been breached and whether what your emails, your password, your locations have been breached. And this is the situation right now. So I think it is impacting the common man right now, these breaches, and every day in cyber cells when these callers. So there was a time when these callers only used to fool you for OTP, but now the caller is a sophisticated caller. He has a lot of data about you. He knows your card number, your car number, the loan you have taken, and then when he dupes you, you understand what happens. So thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, sir. It has been an exhilarating, roller coaster based upon use cases. So I'd just like to add to what you have said, sir. Recently, my HDFC, one policy has matured. So there was an inbuilt option that if I do not bring out the money, I can keep it for 3 more years and I'll get better returns. So I have not done that. That means I have not credited that. So what happened, I have received an SMS only 3-4 days back, wherein they have given me a link and they have asked me to go into that link and get the benefit of the 3rd year. The same amount I'll be receiving today, which I would have received, 3 years later. So I actually have a sandbox. So I went into that, copied the URL, and that in that sandbox, I activated the sandbox and browsed that link. I have taken into a new application that is a web-based application. It wanted me to actually install the installer. And that application is called LinkU, LINKU, just you. So I, installed that in the using that sandbox, and immediately I saw that most of my personal details were already filled. They were pre-filled. So I took snapshots of those things, and somehow I approached the HDFC and shared with them. And their reactions are still awaited. The first reaction that I received, that this is not our link, we have not, we did not send you any SMS, blah, blah, blah. That was not the thing. Because if it is in the offing, so they must be knowing it. It is not like that. And how could that, basic intrinsic details of the policy and all were already pre-filled? I have not shared this thing. Either
it is
Google.
a CRM.
Yes, it is the CRM.
It's a professional CRM,
Yeah.
software as a
Yeah.
service, and
Yes.
they definitely must have some link to it, and that's why they got
Not only, sir, not only that, my Gmail accounts, it was receiving the, different monthly updates with the number of the policy, all these things, they come. Some of them are hidden and some of them are open. So they actually deep dive into that and bring out then the analytical tool it runs. There is a pattern recognition back-ending tool that runs, and actually they have already pre-filled this thing. I was about to, most of the people would be actually receiving this 2-3 lakhs more, which would be received in 2-3 years later. So everybody might be enticed into clicking that link, allowing that thing, and just getting duped. So this is another use case, sir. I just add to it.
Thank you, sir.
I have all those details I can share with
we'll connect, sir.
Sushovan. Yes, yeah. So beyond that, sir, I would once again thank you for your time and all. And I would request Mr. Mrinal Chakraborty, the Executive VP IT Innovations, DTDC Express Limited, to tell us about the reality of this reality of this security, that the cyber security that we talk about while working from home, the endpoint security in particular, that is it possible really for people like us who are more accustomed in the day-to-day activity in a physical form or a centralized form, working from home far away and not having a good endpoint security tools, technologies at our disposal to really get connected and work in a secured atmosphere? Mr. Chakraborty, would you please? Sir, you are muted, sir, somehow or something. We are unable to hear you, sir. Mic, the volume must be increased or something. I don't. Sir. Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
It is. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir.
Sorry for the inconvenience. First of all, thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Sukanya. Thank you, Mr. Sushovan, for inviting us for this August gathering. I feel humbled over here. So I think so far, whatever I heard for last 2.5 hours or so, it is all about personal data breach and personal issues on the cyber front. I have no solutions for that. I think we asked for more, and we are now victim of that. If I tell you what we asked to Amazon, that if I buy a book from say Sadat Hussain Manto, you please show me next time whenever I'm visiting Amazon, show me the likes of Sadat Hussain Manto, that kind of books and that kind of philosophical or literature to me. So we asked people to profile my data and present me what are my choices. So it is we, as an end user, 3 years back or 4 years back, we asked business that you profile my data, and that's the journey started from there. Started profiling, and today it is absolutely horrible that when you go to Facebook and you stop for one particular video for a second, and Facebook knows that you like that video, you watch that video, and henceforth, whether you like it or not, you are being bombarded with that kind of videos on your Facebook account, and you become a victim of that. And then the banking and the financial institutes, what we are hearing for last 2.5 hours over here. We are from DTDC, India's second largest express distribution organization. So what we do at the corporate level, what we do as an end users, over there. So first of all, when the pandemic happened, definitely a lot of people, they started working from home. Post-pandemic, we are treating as a post-pandemic period. We are now back to office, but still a lot of senior executives, they are working from home. A lot of locations which is, we are telling people, please don't come back to the main city, and you are there wherever you are. So around 2,000 odd people still working from home. So what we did primarily, because it's a corporate data, first we created a VPN for them, and we have told all of them that while we are providing the laptops, it has to be protected well. So we moved ahead with a very, very powerful endpoint security solutions, so that which is called EDR. And at our personal level also, many of us, we don't subscribe to even a plain antivirus. We must install a proper antivirus. So at corporate, what we did, we given a proper endpoint detection and prevention tool to them. It is expensive per user basis, but without that, you cannot really protect your corporate data. Also, what we did for all the laptop users, for all the mobile users, for all the users who are working from home, we have taken a control of their home routers, and we have instructed all the employees not to use pass 1234, not to use 12345678 as their password. But we have guided them, we have trained them that you please install two-factor authentications and on your personal router. All the employees of DTDCs, all their mail IDs, both personal and official, we moved to two-factor authentications. We have brought, and 31st December last year, we have achieved that all their, I'm not very sure about their personal, though we have requested them, but all the DTDC employee and all their mail IDs are now behind a two-factor authentication, which means if you need to breach my email, first SMS will come to my mobile phone. You not only need to breach my email ID, you need to access my mobile number also, which is a quite difficult one. So two-factor, first of all, antivirus. Second, a proper endpoint detection and mechanism tool. Third, very tough or secured password for your router, which is at your home. Fourth, move all your mail IDs into two-factor authentication. We also went ahead and told all the employees, please implement two-factor authentications for all your banking passwords, so that it is not very easy to breach that it is only the password you know. It has to have a two-factor authentication for all your password. Last but not the least, we employed the data loss prevention tool, so that we know if any employee downloading any data or not, downloading, storing, and forwarding to any, say, myspace.org or myspace.com, or any any iPhone storage or Android storage. So this is the five-factor authentications, five-factor tools we are given. We know nothing is sufficient in today's world. So continuously we are monitoring and educating our employees, saying that what is called data safety, it is not only for you, it is for your family, for your organization. Why a two-factor authentication is important, why your password should not be password or pass 1234. It should be an alphanumeric, uppercase, lowercase mix of that password. Continuous this training we are providing for last 3 years. Security is not a one-day journey. We are doing it for last 3 years. And I'm sure that that's the way one can protect the corporate data. Nothing is secured, but as much as protection you can take by deactivating the USB drive, by deactivating a Bluetooth enabled authentications, by activating two-factor authentications, and by implementing a simple password policy. A good password policy can protect a corporate data significantly. Last but not the least, if you're using an Android phone, you are forced to give an email ID to activate your store. So that's the world. That's the world we are leading in. We cannot go back to a 2G phone now. everybody need to use a smartphone. But yes, at every instance or every application, whoever is asking you that to access your mobile phone or your address book or your file or your storage, if we can be away from them, we may create a little bit of, but I think BAS has gone far, far away, and we need to be secured whatever best way possible. So this is the corporate and personal way, a security as a policy or security as a guidance, we can give it from the corporate level.
Thank you, Mr. Chakraborty. Thank you for your beautiful insight. Use case specifically gives us a feeling that some basic preconditions or prerequisites, if they are filled, immediately a level of hygiene, be it cyber or health, it increases. As we are here, most of us have successfully withstood the onslaught of pandemic. Either we have gone through or we are yet to be embraced. Either we are already into it and having developed, antibody in our body, or we are, just praying that we are left out. So, but there is no doubt about it. Whatever it has done, this pandemic, it has made us to follow some basic, hygiene practices in our health. Earlier, when our parents or forefathers used to have their bathrooms far away from our homes, people like me, I used to laugh when visiting my ancestral home. Right now, every day while going back to my place after office, I really think that had it been so, I would have taken a bath before going into the home and exposing it to the perils that I have been through. So issue is this, in cyber presence of ours, if we could compartmentalize, just like a hotel, in order to go from room 1 to room 2, we need to go through a corridor. There is no connecting door in between. So we need to come out and then go into another room. Like that, if we can compartmentalize our cyber presence by utilizing the basic cyber hygiene, some practices like, using different sandboxes, that means VPN services and other services, the endpoint securities, and specifically understanding what to use, what to not. I could add a very basic thing to what Mr. Chakraborty has just told. In 2020, EU, while reviewing their GDPR, came out with a white paper. It is available in Google. You would see that they want to have a mobile phone devoid of any downloadable application. So in today, right now, if you go into various applications, their browser actually allows you the feel of a mobile application itself. Or rather, you can download from the browser its web view version. So web view version is directly downloaded from their respective servers, not from the Play Store. So if you use the web view version does not per se collect all your data directly onto the server. They are just like an web-based application. Yes, web-based application also receives and collects the data, but as web view versions or web view applications are light in weight and its transactional and API transaction, all these things are limited, there is limited possibility of data transaction, that the avalanche that happens. So EU says that go into a time where your downloadable applications will be listed, and they are pressing for web versions of all the applications. So a lot of applications in European Union, they are coming back from mobile to web-based applications. So we need to also then in cybersecurity, we need to also take a step back and think or look at or ponder upon what we have done and what more peril that could come from our doings. Can we undo a little and redo something? That is really what we should go into right now. I would request Mr. Bhatia to talk about, little bit about the WhatsApp fiasco. Today I received a very good, this cartoon which says, "अरे यार, मैंने तो Signal download कर लिया. अभी करना क्या है? I have downloaded Signal, but what should I do? Because I am following the trend. I am following the trend. I am a bogie in the long train. But what would I do? Because the benefits that I have understood and the affinity that I have developed with WhatsApp, that is the thing that is preventing me from exploring Signal. And the beauty of the thing, if you go back in 2019 end, when there was Black Lives Matter, propaganda going on, the whole thing, then most of those protesters, they were using Signal. So NSA forced them to start using PIN. So come 2020 and the pandemic, immediately Signal put this thing, whosoever downloads Signal afresh or a new device needs to use PIN. And the beauty of the PIN is the encryption and the decryption keys are kept in the server. So you are keeping your own chabi, that means the keys, with the banker. Or locker में आपने सब कुछ रख दिया. You have kept everything in the locker and gave both the keys to the banker. Please safekeep my things. So with that notion, I would request Mr. Bhatia to just give us a brief overview on WhatsApp fiasco, because it is really intriguing to know what is going on. Thank you so much.
Okay. So Sanjay sir, another panelist. I know it's quite late. Everybody would be in a rush to be, taking a break from these virtual sessions. They definitely are very stressful. But okay, I'll try to keep it short. I mean, in the past 1 month itself, I have spoken over at least 10 news channels, national news channels about this particular thing. And every time they said, the anchor would always ask me this question, but Mr. Bhatia, many of your things are available everywhere else. Like on Facebook and other places and on LinkedIn and all that. I said, absolutely right. They are there and I have given over there. But as of now, if I have to chat with you, if we are deciding on the format of the show or any particular thing, where would we chat on it? Will we go on to Facebook and write? Will we go on Instagram and write? Or will we send emails? She says, no, WhatsApp. I said, exactly. So how it is happening, all our confidential information also, because we trusted WhatsApp, we've been putting on WhatsApp. Even when WhatsApp was acquired by Mark Zuckerberg, it said that, look, we are not going to share data with Mark. They clearly said we are not going to share it with Facebook group of companies. And that was the trust the owners of WhatsApp constantly kept giving us. Now, suddenly, you come up with this digital dadagiri that, okay, look, from 8, accept this, otherwise get out. So this attitude, so this is the attitude which nobody in the world likes. The sharing with the Facebook has been happening since 2016. But at that point of time, there was an option to opt out. Many people were not aware about it, but that was not a dadagiri. That was a chalakigiri that they had done, where the option was somewhere like you have to log in and check and, then say, okay, I don't want to do and all those kind of things. But here it is, my way or the highway. And to teach them a lesson or to tell them that, that look, enough of this gundagiri of yours, we started moving to Signal. It is not about, okay, my privacy. I know when I'm chatting, all these apps know everything. Like Rakshit was saying about, the bullet that he wanted to buy and all that. Yeah, the microphone is this thing. I'm not going to be surprised because all our phones are kept on the side. And today, right now, if I'm talking about bullet or even on Zoom and all, maybe all of us, all the 35 participants right now would be getting ads of bullet. Who knows about it? But then, as far as that WhatsApp was concerned, we knew that the information was just between you and me. And if you see now, Google has also threatened that in Australia they will do this. See, right now we are getting into a very smaller chain of these tech giants. The chain is very small of theirs. That there is the Google, there is the Facebook, there is the Zoom, and all that. But imagine 4 companies controlling the 6 billion population. You know what is really going to happen in that particular case. So somewhere the users need to start talking about it. You shift to Signal, find whatever it is, maybe the keys over there and all. Lagana dhakka WhatsApp ko. Didn't he spend millions of dollars in the ads and all? Hasn't he like kind of postponed this thing? And that is exactly the thing. Now you look at Ghana, the app of songs, whether it is Ghana or Wink Music, both of them are giving you songs. You are able to hear the songs, but ads come over there. Now you get frustrated because you're listening to some very nice like poems of Rabindranath Tagore, and suddenly the third one is of an ad. You get very irritated about it because that melody, the mood which you're into it, now you're getting very irritated about it. So Ghana and Wink both say, pay me and I will give you ad free. So WhatsApp can also do that. It can go on for a subscription model. But if you come up with this particular dadagiri without giving us, so where is the whole concept of privacy? When we are talking about consent, when we are talking about privacy by design, we are saying more power to the users. This is exactly what we want. We, the consumers of internet, we also need that power in hand. I know we are giving them something of ours, but not so much that we are giving them a finger, they are taking our entire body. So this is the whole fiasco of WhatsApp. They have postponed it, most likely with the government pressure. Okay, I mean the government should pressure, because if you see, they are not doing, they don't even have the guts, forget they are doing or not doing, they don't even have the guts to do something like this in European nations. They don't even have the guts over there. And the similar thing can be shown by the government of India, because we are their largest consumers, and we, or rather I would say, we are their largest products. They depend on us for their growth. So they better listen over there, and next time at least they will think twice, thrice, that okay, before coming up like this, let's talk to the government, let's talk to the users, or let's give them an option. Today itself on Facebook, I have put up a short video that how at least 100 companies of yours, you can go and check it on your own mobile, are giving your data to Facebook. If you want to watch, go and watch the video on Facebook. I recorded it in the morning on the occasion of Data Privacy Day. And I took my wife's phone and I saw 140 companies data is being provided to Facebook, and Facebook is showing on our app. So this is called as an off Facebook activity. So if you are like communicating with Kotak Mahindra Bank is giving your information to Facebook. If you're communicating with Zomato is giving your information to Facebook. That's the reason you're seeing so many of ads and so much of harassment. So switch off that off Facebook activity. Just go onto my Facebook, check it out. The video is over there.
Wonderful, Mr. Bhatia, wonderful. As Mr. Sahai is here, sir, I would take this privilege of, just tell everybody that recently I have come to know that, Facebook CDR is right now available. So as Facebook CDR is available, then anything and everything can happen. So we understand with the elections round the corner and coming up. So our entire, notion, our entire nuance, our entire likings and dislikes per se. And with regards to whatever we have discussed here, I would request Mr. Sahai, though not in the panel, to end by saying, a pledge. What should be our pledge, the collective pledge, whereby we can think of a secure tomorrow. Sir, if you please.
So the collective pledge can be that we will put as little of information as possible to make our life and our professional job movable. So that is the pledge. Very minimalist approach to data on the net. Minimalist approach to data on the net.
And said the opposite, if I could add to you, that need to know. Let us not serve which we do not want. Even then, our profiling will be less.
No, that is correct.
that's what I also say.
Problem is somebody else will search.
No,
Because
definitely.
the issue is with availability or lack of availability and not
Yes.
giving enough data on which you can put intelligence and use it in the same manner as you are talking regarding the
Absolutely.
election. So the only
Thank
way is to be as minimalist as we
as
can
possible.
while we conduct our normal personal and professional life.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you permit, then we will close our panel with this, and I would hand over the mic to the arranger and the usher to take it to the next level. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much, sir.
everybody.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. It was an excellent